So, what if the strangest theory in all of science and the deepest mystery of our own existence are actually the same thing? Today, we're diving into a really mind bending idea that connects the bizarre quantum world with human consciousness.
And our journey really starts with this famous line from Albert Einstein. You see, he was really bothered by a core part of quantum mechanics, a theory he actually helped create. This spooky action at a distance seemed to break a fundamental rule of the universe as he saw it, that nothing, no signal at all, can travel faster than light. But what if that spookiness is actually a clue to an even bigger puzzle? So let's start with Einstein's riddle. He saw a ghost in the math of quantum mechanics, a kind of paradox that made it seem like the universe just wasn't playing by the rules of common sense.
On one side, you've got the completely weird, probabilistic world of quantum physics, where tiny particles are just dancing to a tune we can't quite figure out. And on the other, you have the profound, deeply personal mystery of consciousness. That inner world of our thoughts and feelings. They seem like totally separate things, right?
But here's the big speculative leap we're going to explore. What if the strange way quantum reality is built and the strange way consciousness is built aren't just a coincidence? What if they're actually mirroring the same deep principles?
To even begin to see how that could work, we first have to get our heads around this invisible blueprint that seems to be running the quantum world, the very thing that made Einstein so uneasy. In our normal everyday world, what we call classical reality, things are pretty straightforward. A coffee cup is on the table, it's in a specific spot, it has specific properties, it exists whether you're looking at it or not. If you want to move something far away, you've got to send something, a signal, a force that travels through space to get there. Simple.
But quantum reality? Well, that's a whole other ballgame. At the tiniest scales, particles can get entangled. It's this deep connection where they act like a single entity, no matter how far apart they are. It's like their individual identities get merged into one shared reality, all described by a single piece of math, the wave function.
And the difference is just huge. The classical world is local, it's causal, like a chain of dominoes falling one after another. But the quantum view is holistic, it's non-local. When you measure one of these entangled particles, you instantly know the state of its partner, even if that partner is light years away. No message travels between them. That is the spooky action that bothered Einstein so much.
So what's behind this bizarre connection? Well, it all comes down to a concept at the very heart of quantum mechanics, the wave function. This is that invisible blueprint we were talking about.
And this is where things get really, really strange. The wave function isn't a physical thing. It's not made of matter, it has no energy, it doesn't push or pull with any force. It's a purely mathematical informational structure that just lays out all the potential states of a system. Think of it like a map of possibilities that somehow guides how actual matter behaves. So, because we're so used to thinking in classical terms, where physical stuff has to cause other physical stuff to happen, this non-physical governing looks like it has agency. It looks like some invisible intelligence is making a choice. But what quantum physics tells us is that this is an illusion. It's not a ghost in the machine. It's just the fundamental architecture of the machine itself. Okay, so we've got this idea of a non-physical informational blueprint that shapes physical reality. Now, let's turn things around and ask a really bold question. Could that other huge mystery, the mind, work on a similar principle? Could it also have a kind of hidden informational layer? What if our own subjective experience, the world inside our heads, is just the classical surface of a much deeper, more mysterious reality? What if, just like the quantum world, our minds also have an invisible blueprint?
So one really fascinating, though, highly speculative way to think about this is something called the three-mode hypothesis. It basically suggests that our consciousness isn't just one single thing, but that it operates in these distinct layers, and each one has its own properties and its own connection to reality.
So our normal, everyday waking consciousness, that's the localized, filtered experience we have right now, tied to our body and our brain. But this model suggests that underneath that, there's a fundamental consciousness, a non-local, universal field of awareness. And then in between, you have these so-called paranormal or liminal states. And we're not talking ghosts here, but more like altered states, deep meditation, maybe near-death experiences, where the brain's filter might get a little weaker and we get a peek into that deeper fundamental layer.
And this is where our two great mysteries really start to come together. Could the ghost Einstein saw in the quantum machine be related to the ghost we call the mind?
Let's put them side by side. On one side, you have the wave function, this non-material, informational blueprint that shapes physical reality. And on the other, you have this idea of a fundamental consciousness, a non-material field of awareness that could be the source of our individual waking experience. The parallels, they're pretty striking, aren't they?
Okay, let's pause here for a second, because this table right here is the absolute heart of this whole idea. Let's walk through it. Look at that top row, fundamental consciousness. Like the wave function, it's described as non-local and informational. And from our limited classical view, its influence looks like it has agency. That's our spooky action. Now check out the second row, waking consciousness. This is like a collapsed wave. It's our specific, localized, classical reality after a measurement has been made. And finally, the third row, those paranormal or liminal states. The idea here is that they might be like quantum superposition, that weird state where multiple possibilities exist all at once before everything collapses into one definite experience.
So the crucial takeaway is this: what looks to us like agency, both in quantum physics and maybe in consciousness, could just be a misinterpretation. We're seeing the effects of a deeper informational structure, and we're mistaking it for a conscious actor making choices. It's not an agent, it's the very architecture that events unfold within.
So, where does all this speculation leave us? Well, it gives us a new map, a new way of thinking about the fundamental nature of the universe and our own place in it.
Now, I have to be absolutely clear here. This is not a proven scientific theory. It's a speculative framework, a philosophical analogy, but it's a really powerful one because it tries to build a bridge between the objective world of physics and the subjective world of our own experience.
And this is why it matters. This model hints that maybe the most fundamental thing in the universe isn't matter or energy, but information, structure, potential. Maybe we live in a universe where the blueprint isn't just a guide for the building, but in a very deep sense is more real than the building itself.
Which leaves us with one last, truly mind-bending thought. If our own consciousness is just a localized piece of a universal, fundamental field, then maybe our role isn't just to be a passive observer of the cosmos. Maybe, through us, the universe is actually becoming aware of itself. A spooky thought indeed.